Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, February the 28th. We are going to cover Friday's 10-game slate. Got a big slate for Friday night. Going to go through the slate position by position, hit on the players that stand out to me the most, give them some of my early thoughts on the slate. I am recording this video on Thursday night, so these are my first looks. There are a lot of injuries we have to watch heading into Friday that we'll definitely talk about throughout the video. Guys like Trae Young, Luka Doncic questionable. There's other guys questionable as well that we'll hit on. So should make for a pretty interesting slate. We'll hit on some guys I like for DraftKings. We'll talk about some players I like over on Yahoo as well. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you would like, you can check out all my exclusive NBA content I do have to offer that can be found linked down below in the description, found over on Patreon. I do have a lot of exclusive content going up on Patreon throughout the day. I post an article Monday through Friday. I give updated core plays on Patreon. I have a Discord chat that is available for all members. So you can definitely check out the Patreon content, see what I have to offer over there. You can also follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is linked down below in the description at DFS by Noah. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for today. At the top, we have two options over 10K. Luka Doncic, Trae Young. Both of these guys are questionable as I am recording this video on Thursday night. So Luka, will start off with him. Not the best spot against Miami. Tough spot going on the road to face a really good defensive team. But Luka's just way too cheap on DraftKings. I mean, this is a guy that's going to give you probably 55 to 60 DraftKings points most nights. Last game against the Spurs, played 37 minutes and had 64 DraftKings points. He was really popular on that slate, on Wednesday night slate. Had a really good game. I'd project him for similar numbers today. He'd be one of my favorite spend-up options if he is able to play today. We don't know his status as of now. Is a thumb injury. I know he's been playing through some injuries as of late. Hopefully we get an update on this, like maybe in the afternoon or in like the morning after they have shoot around. If we get an update and Luka plays, I have a good amount of interest in him. He would become one of my favorite spend-up options. He's 10-7. You have Giannis at 11-6, who, although he's listed as questionable, he's actually probable. So Giannis is expected to play. I'd prefer Luka given the savings. Trae Young, though, also questionable. I do like Trae Young a lot at 10-5. I don't think I can play him over Luka because Luka's only a couple hundred more. I think Luka just projects better. But Trae Young, I definitely have interest in tournaments. If he's able to play today, he's questionable with an illness. I know he was questionable in their last game against Orlando. He wound up playing that game, played 38 minutes and had 62 DraftKings points. It was a really good game from Trae Young. This is a great spot for him against Brooklyn. This is a matchup he's had a lot of success in this season. Through 2 games against Brooklyn, he has averaged almost 64 DraftKings points per game against them. I know Brooklyn's been one of the worst defensive teams against point guards this season. Overall, they haven't been that good of a defensive team. In terms of defensive rating, they are, I believe they're like middle of the pack if I'm not mistaken. Or they're actually pretty good in defensive rating on the season, but I know against point guards they've really struggled. In terms of pace, this is definitely a game you want to target. You got the Hawks playing at the 7th fastest pace in the league. You got the Nets playing at the 10th fastest pace. We don't have a total yet on this game. Or actually, I'm seeing 233.5 from some places, which does put this game towards the top of the list in terms of implied totals. Right now, the only game with a higher total is Minnesota-Orlando. That has a 236. We don't have a total yet in Cleveland, New Orleans, Dallas-Miami, also Detroit-Phoenix. I don't expect Dallas-Miami or Detroit-Phoenix to be above 230, but we might see a high total in that Cleveland-New Orleans game. Regardless, though, 233.5 total. This is going to be a game we want to get some exposure to. 2 pretty fast-paced teams. I think this is a game that can stay close. I really like Trae Young as well. Like I said, he'd be behind Luka for me, but in tournaments, I like getting some exposure to Trae Young if he is able to play today. I think he is another strong spin-up option. I like this matchup a lot for him. This feels like one of those spots where you could possibly get a 70, 75-point game from Trae Young because the matchup really is that good. But then some of these mid-range options, D'Angelo Russell against the Magic, that's not the best spot, but D'Angelo Russell just continues to get a monster amount of usage. Just continues to be fed offensively. Going to take probably 18 to 20 shots. I mean, he's took 20, 18 shots the last 2 games, 16 against Boston. Just getting a lot of usage, picking up assists, getting some rebounds as well. He's posted at least 40-plus DraftKings points in 4 straight games. Like I said, with Towns off the floor, the usage is there for D'Angelo Russell. The minutes should be there as well. I expect he probably plays about 32 to 34 minutes if this is a close game. It's not the best matchup against the Magic, but I think because the matchup isn't great, that's going to keep his ownership down. I know he was really low owned on the last slate, so if you want to go to D'Angelo Russell in tournaments, I'm totally fine with that. Karis LeVert is coming off a monster game, but is in a great spot again today. He's 8,300. He's really expensive, but put up 62 DraftKings points in his last game against the Wizards. That was a really good matchup. This is also a great spot against the Hawks. I mean, I expect LeVert to play 32 to 34 minutes if this game is close. Without Kyrie, he gets a lot of usage, over a 30% usage rate this season with Kyrie off the floor. Averages about 1.15 fantasy points per minute. I don't expect him to put up 62 DraftKings points again today, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 45, 50-point game from Karis LeVert against this Hawks team. It's a great spot, obviously. So I do like him at 8,300. But some of my favorite plays come a little bit cheaper. Donovan Mitchell is a guy that I like a lot today. He's 8K on DraftKings. If we go over to Yahoo, I think Donovan Mitchell really stands out on Yahoo. He's only $30 at shooting guard. Definitely stands out as one of the better options at that position. So this is a great spot for Donovan Mitchell facing the Wizards. We know how good this matchup is. This is a matchup I've targeted all season. I'm sure a lot of you guys have targeted as well. Wizards, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They rank dead last in defensive rating. They're playing at a very fast pace as well. They rank 4th in pace on the season. The Jazz are a pretty slow-paced team. They rank 20th. So this is a big pace-up spot for them. They're going to get more possessions in this game, more opportunity. This game has a 230 total as well, so this is another game with a high total. Another game we're going to want to get some exposure to. More from the Utah side than the Washington side. I don't really want to target a ton of guys from Washington going up against the Jazz, but however, on the other side with the Jazz facing the Wizards, definitely like guys like Donovan Mitchell. We'll talk about Rudy Gobert when we get to center. Even like Bogdanovich, maybe Mike Conley, Royce O'Neal. These guys could be options as well, but it starts with Donovan Mitchell. Going to play 34, 36 minutes if it's a close game. Been playing really well as of late. 42 plus DraftKings points in 3 straight games. He's got 50 plus in 2 of his last 3, or in 2 straight, I should say. This feels like another spot where we could get a 50 plus point game from Donovan Mitchell. So really like him at point guard. I think he definitely stands out as a very strong option there. Spencer Dinwiddie I like as well for 100 less. I talked about Karis LeVert. Really like Karis LeVert in this spot, but it's hard to ignore Spencer Dinwiddie as well. Getting the same good matchup against the Hawks. We said it earlier. I mean, the Hawks, 7th fastest pace in the league, one of the worst defensive teams, 28th in defensive rating. If Spencer Dinwiddie's going to see a lot of Trae Young defense here, I mean, that is an exceptional matchup for him. Trae Young has been one of the worst defenders this season. He was one of the worst defenders last season, just not that good of a defender overall. So I think we're getting a pretty nice price on Spencer Dinwiddie for the upside that he has in this spot. Fast-paced game, going to get a lot of usage with Kyrie off the floor. I know he's kind of been disappointing as of late. We've kind of seen Karis LeVert really take over just as of late, putting up monster games. You still got monster upside from Spencer Dinwiddie. This is still a guy that can go out there and drop 50 DraftKings points any night. I mean, we saw him put up 49 against Toronto, 47 against the Pacers. Like, he's got 45, 50-point upside easily, especially in a matchup like this against the Hawks. Dinwiddie burned me last game against the Wizards. I was pretty heavy on him on that slate. I was very overweight on him in tournaments. I'm going to be overweight on him today. I think with how poor his game log is right now, that's going to keep his ownership down. Plus his price tag, it's like it hasn't really dropped any. It's not like we're getting a big discount on him. I mean, he's still $7,900. He was $8K on the last slate. I think he's going to come in at low ownership today, which makes him a very appealing option. I like him a lot on DK at $7,900. I think you can definitely play him over on Yahoo as well. He's at $32. I think he stands out as a point guard option, or one of the better point guard options in that price range if you do want to play him there. But one of the big injuries we'll need to watch heading into Friday, we talked about Luka and Trae Young both being questionable. De'Aaron Fox is also questionable. He sat out Thursday night, which is kind of unexpected. We got word like in the afternoon that he was questionable with an injury, and then we ultimately found out that he was not going to play. Because it's a back-to-back, I think De'Aaron Fox most likely does not play today because it's a back-to-back. Usually when guys are out on the front end of a back-to-back, they usually don't play on the second half. But we'll see. Hopefully we get an update like in the afternoon. If he's out, we'll talk about some of the beneficiaries there from the Kings that we could definitely target. But going to be important to keep an eye on that De'Aaron Fox injury. Now, if he's able to play, this is a really good matchup against Memphis. If he's not limited, I mean, I'd have a little bit of interest in him at 7,700, especially if we don't get any update on him before lock. Like, he's going to come in at very low ownership, which will just make him even more appealing for tournaments. But then other guys, Brandon Ingram, for some odd reason, has point guard eligibility on DraftKings. I liked him a lot last slate against the Lakers. It worked out well. He had 50 DraftKings points in 37 minutes. He got priced up a lot. I mean, he's back up to where he should be priced at 7,500, which doesn't make him a core play for me today, but I still have a good amount of interest in Brandon Ingram. This is still a guy that's going to average 1.2 to 1.3 fantasy points per minute, has about a 30% usage rate this season. Even with Zion in the lineup, Ingram has shown he can still put up big games like he did against the Lakers. I watched a good amount of that game, and just Ingram looked so good. He was very aggressive, taking a ton of shots, getting to the basket, just doing a lot offensively. I think he keeps that momentum heading into today's game against Cleveland. Obviously, this is a really good spot as well. Cleveland, a terrible defensive team, towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating, second to last in defensive rating. So have a little bit of interest in Brandon Ingram as well. I just don't think he's going to be a core play now that his price tag has come up to 7,500. But in the 6K range, I mean, there's not much that stands out here in terms of core options. I think a guy like Fred VanVleet against the the Hornets makes plenty of sense. I mean, the Hornets play at a really slow pace, but they are very bad defensively. VanVleet's price tag has come down a little bit on DK. He's down to 6,500, so a little bit of interest in him. Markelle Fultz gets a really good matchup against Minnesota. Minnesota really bad defensively, plays at a pretty fast pace. This is a nice pace-up spot for the Magic, so I think Fultz is fine at 5,900. Derrick Rose finally kind of buzzed out of his slump last game. Had 32 DraftKings points in 27 minutes against Denver. Gets a really good matchup today against the Suns. Not going to play big minutes, probably only going to get about 27, 28 minutes from Derrick Rose. But that still makes me have some interest in him if he's going to play about 28 minutes. He's going to get a lot of usage, going to get plenty of opportunity. With no Drummond, no Griffin, like all these guys no longer on the team or out. I mean, Griffin's out, Drummond traded. Like Derrick Rose is going to get the opportunity, going to get the usage. If he can be productive in his minutes or in his limited time, which I expect him to be, I think he can put up a big game at 5,700, can pay off that price tag pretty easily. So I do have some interest in Derrick Rose at 5,700. Mike Conley, 5,100, also a guy you could look to. Just feels a little bit too cheap for this matchup against the Wizards. I mean, right now he's giving you probably pretty much like a 25, 30-point floor. Hasn't shown monster upside. I mean, his best game as of late was against Denver, where he put up 42 DK points in 34 minutes. If there was ever a spot for him to put up 35, 40 DK points, I mean, this would be it against the Wizards. So I do like Mike Conley quite a bit at 5,100. We saw Shabazz Napier move into the starting lineup last game. He started ahead of Ish Smith. He got into some early foul trouble, which I think kind of limited his minutes. He only played 24 minutes in that game, but did pick up 2 fouls like in the first 3 minutes. I assume if Shabazz starts again, he probably plays about 28, 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. He's a little bit more productive player than Ish Smith. At 4,800, I actually have a decent amount of interest in Shabazz Napier as a value option, assuming he does start again. It's not the best spot against the Wizards, or against the Jazz, but this game does have a high total. I think it can stay close, so Shabazz Napier, if he starts again, I think is a fine option to go to. If DeAnthony Melton starts again as well, he started last game with Brandon Clark out. They decided to play some small ball and start Melton at the 2. They could do that again here, so at 4,400, he'd be a fine value. But yeah, guys, we do have some potential value at point guard, like under 5K, but it's all dependent on injuries. Guys like DeLon Wright, Jeff Teague. If Luka were to sit, obviously DeLon Wright would become a really good option, especially because Jalen Brunson is also out. Or if Trae Young were to sit, then Jeff Teague at 3,600 would become a great value play. If De'Aaron Fox is out again, you have Corey Joseph at 3,500, who could be another guy you target for value. But all those guys are just kind of dependent on injuries. We'll have to wait and see heading into Friday night. Hopefully, like I said earlier, hopefully we'll get some update after shoot around, like in the afternoon. But looking at shooting guard, I don't really love much at the top here. Not the best spot for Bradley Beal against the Jazz. I don't think I want to pay $9,700 for him on this slate. There's just other guys I'd rather pay for. I don't really see much else, like Drew Holiday, $8,200. I think you don't really have to go to at that salary. I mean, it's a really good matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland's not a good defensive team. They really struggle to defend guards. But now that Drew's gotten priced up a good amount, I don't really have like him as a core play today. I think at shooting guard, you have Dinwiddie and Mitchell you could both pay up for here if you wanted to play them. But in this mid-range, there are some plays that stand out here. I really like Colin Sexton today, which is normally not something I say. I don't really think I've played Colin Sexton at all this season, or at least not that much. But this is a really good spot for him against the Pelicans. This is a matchup he had a lot of success in earlier this season, put up 40 Draftkings points in 31 minutes against them. Sexton does have some upside here. We do know that Andre Drummond is going to be out again for the Cavs, which I think will allow Colin Sexton to pick up a little bit more usage. We can take a look at his numbers this season with Drummond off the floor. I don't think we're going to get much of a sample size, but we'll pull it up just real quickly just so you guys can see. So let's go to Cleveland. We'll take a look at his numbers. When you take Drummond off, I assume Tristan Thompson will start again at center. He started last game with Drummond out. I have to assume that's what they do again. Let's see. Sexton's played. Well, actually, the sample size is really big because he's had a lot of time this season. I should say with like Drummond, if you were to look at the numbers since Drummond arrived with the team, how they would look. But either way, I mean, on the season, Sexton's going to have really good numbers, or really solid numbers overall, averaging about a fantasy point per minute. Has a 27% usage rate, which is actually the highest on the team. We'll just take a look at his season-long numbers. We'll run the query again so we can see the differential here. Yeah, 27% usage rate, 0.92 fantasy points per minute, so averaging close to a fantasy point per minute. 14% assist percentage, which are pretty decent numbers overall. The matchup, though, that's one of the reasons I really like Sexton today. If he was facing a different team, I probably wouldn't be on him, but against the Pelicans, a team that plays at a very fast pace, they are third in pace this season. They've been improving on the defensive end. Like we saw at the beginning of the season, they were like top 2 or like second to last, dead last in defensive rating. Since then, they moved to 23rd, but this is still a pretty bad defensive team, a team you can attack. And with just how fast they play, that makes me have a good amount of interest in Colin Sexton. He's going to play 34 to 36 minutes if this is a close game. Even if it blows out, I think maybe Colin Sexton gets some blowout run. I think they have played him in blowouts this season, if I'm not mistaken. So he feels really safe at 6,400. I think there is upside for him. He can go for 40, 45 DK points. I wouldn't be surprised if you get a 40-point game out of Colin Sexton, just with how good this matchup is. At 6,400 on DK, at that salary, I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership. So it makes a lot of sense to go to as a tournament option. He's very nicely priced on Yahoo, so I think if you were going to play him like in cash games, I'd probably do it on Yahoo. He's only $21 over there. I think that looks like a really good price tag overall. Still have a good amount of interest in Sexton, though, in tournaments, even on Yahoo. Even though I expect him to get decent ownership on Yahoo, I think he's still a really good tournament option. So has a lot of upside in this matchup. There's definitely 40, 45-point potential for him. So really like Sexton in that mid-range. Other options, though, like if De'Aaron Fox were to sit again, you got Buddy Hield at 6K you could go to. If Luka were to sit, you have Tim Hardaway at 6,100. Those two guys could be plays today, depending on how injuries shake out. Bogdanovich as well is 5,200. I would like him a lot if De'Aaron Fox is ruled out. I like Bogdanovich a lot Thursday night once Fox got ruled out. Not really sure how he's doing. I haven't been keeping up with the games. But assuming Fox remains out, you could definitely play Bogdanovich at 5,200. In terms of value plays, though, at shooting guard under 5K, Kevin Porter Jr. kind of been inconsistent as of late, but has still shown definitely somewhat of a ceiling. Has 30, 35-point upside. I mean, he put up 51 DK points against Miami. I do not expect that to happen again. I don't know if he'll ever have a 51, or I don't think he'll ever have a 51-point game the rest of the season. But this is still a guy that does have 30, 35-point upside. It is a really good matchup against the Pelicans. He put up about 30 DK points against them earlier this season. He's going to get pretty nice minutes off the bench. He's going to play probably 30, 32 minutes off the bench. So they've been closing with Kevin Porter as well over a guy like Darius Garland. So Kevin Porter, I definitely have some interest in. At 4,800, I think he's fine to go to in a really good matchup. Melton, you could target at 4,400. If you want to go to him, or if you do want to play him, I'm fine with that. If he starts again, Cam Reddish, I like quite a bit at 4,400. With Dwayne Dedmon ruled out, I think that actually helps Cam Reddish a lot. I think it's more likely you see Cam Reddish in the closing lineup. They can close with John Collins at center, whereas before they were playing a lot of Dedmon and Collins alongside each other. We'll see Bruno Fernando get the start at center, but he doesn't play a ton of minutes. You're going to see towards the end of the game, when it's like down in crunch time, coming down to the wire, you're going to see Collins on the floor at center, and then you're going to have guys like Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter. That's most likely going to be their closing lineup if it's a close game. Last game when Dedmon got ruled out, you did get 31 minutes from Cam Reddish, had 25 Draftkings points. He should get probably 30, 32 minutes off the bench, if not more. He's 4,400 on DK, so at that salary, he's not like a must-play by any means. I think on Yahoo, though, that's where he really stands out. He's just $1 off of the minimum. He's $11 on Yahoo. I really like him as a value small forward, especially as an early look value. Now, if Trae Young's out, if Luka's out, then obviously we'll have some better value opened up with guys like Teague, DeLon Wright. There will be a lot of value then. But for now, I think plugging in Cam Reddish as an early look value makes plenty of sense, especially on Yahoo where he is really cheap at $11. But then the rest of the cheap options at shooting guard just like dependent on injuries. Jeff Teague, if Trae Young were to sit. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the small forward position. So small forward, you got Kawhi at 9,500 against Denver. Just doesn't feel like a slate where I need to play Kawhi at that salary. I know Paul George hasn't been great as of late, but he's still back with the team. He's getting minutes. He's taking usage away from Kawhi, so I don't really need to go to Kawhi. I do like Karis LeVert. I talked about him earlier at 8,300. Even at an expensive price tag, I think he still has plenty of upside in this matchup against the Hawks. Brandon Ingram as well for 7,500 you could consider. Getting down to the mid-range, guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., if Luka were to sit, Buddy Hield, if Fox were to sit. A really good matchup for Bojan Bogdanovic, I should say. I normally never play this guy, but against the Wizards, if I were to play him, it would probably be today in that matchup. So he's found to go to. Will Barton feels a little bit too cheap still at 5,400. I don't mind him in the mid-range either at that salary. Kevin Huerter against Brooklyn, you could also target 5,300. He would obviously become a lot more appealing if Trae Young were to sit. I'd have a lot more interest in him. If Fox is out, you have Bogdanovic at 5,200. Even Dylan Brooks on the other side of that game finally busted out of his slump. Last game against the Rockets, shot about 34%, 35% from the field. Took 26 shots in that game, which was great to see. He was getting a lot of shot volume. Played 30 minutes, and it was a blowout. So I have to assume if that game stays close, like Dylan Brooks probably plays like 34, 35 minutes. I think at 5,200, Dylan Brooks is definitely in play. I think with no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Brandon Clark, that's actually a boost for Dylan Brooks. I think he is going to get a little bit more usage with those guys off the floor. That's just one less offensive guy they have on the floor. Getting D'Anthony Melton out there, Melton's not much of he's not really a guy that's going to go out there and take like 30 shots. He's a peripheral guy. He'll contribute with like rebounds, assists, defensive stats. Brooks should get the opportunity to take as many shots as he wants, so he's still fine to go to at 5,200. In terms of cheap options, though, there's not really much that stands out here besides the guys I've already talked about, besides the guys that could be playable but dependent on injuries. Dario Saric is fine to go to with Kelly Oubre out again, but he did get priced up a lot. He's up to 4,800. If I was going to play Dario Saric, it would be on Yahoo. He's still minimum salary. He's still $10 over there. Played 31 minutes in the starting lineup with Kelly Oubre out last game. We know Oubre is going to be out for, I believe, a week or two, so should continue to see Dario Saric get the start. Probably play about 30 to 32 minutes a night. Most nights he's going to give you 20 to 25 fantasy points, which at minimum salary, that's pretty good as a value option. So if you're going to play Saric, I'd probably do it on Yahoo. Kyle Anderson, really good game last game in limited minutes. I think a lot of that had to do with blowout. So if this game can stay close against Sacramento and we get maybe 30 minutes from Kyle Anderson at 4,800, he could be another value play you look to. Josh Jackson, I was very high on last slate. Didn't get the start. Wound up coming off the bench, which was kind of surprising. Only played 23 minutes as well, even in a blowout. I was assuming he was going to get a lot of blowout run, but that just wasn't the case. With Jackson coming off the bench, I don't know if he's going to play like 30, 32 minutes. I think they're most likely going to keep him around the 25, 26-minute range, which definitely hurts his potential. And he's 4,600. He's not dirt cheap, so still hard to consider him like a core value today. I think that's probably it for small forward. A lot of value we're kind of just we're having to wait and see on. These injuries to Trae Young and Luka are so impactful. If those guys are out, that just totally changes everything. That's going to open up so many potential options, so much value. So I tried to talk about as much as I could. It's really hard to give confident value plays as of now. Just looking at this the night before, there's no standout value plays. Obviously, guys like Teague would be standout values, but that's dependent on injury news. So we'll talk about power forward now. At the top here, you do have Giannis, 11,600 against OKC. He is probable. He's expected to play today. I have to assume Giannis plays 32, 34 minutes if this is a close game. I think the Thunder can keep this game close. The Thunder have been playing very well this season. Giannis did put up 62 Draftkings points in 36 minutes against the Thunder earlier this season. I don't know if I can pay more for him than a guy like Luka, especially when you have Luka for almost $1,000 cheaper. You have Trae Young in a great spot for $1,000 less. I think I would prefer guys like Trae Young and Luka over Giannis today, but Giannis obviously is in play. I mean, 11.6 is still probably too cheap of a price tag for Giannis. This guy's going to give you 55, 60 DK points most nights. It's just, do we get that 70, 75 point game? Those are the days we want to have him in our tournament lineups. If he goes for 60, 65, you can probably make that up elsewhere. I don't think you have to have Giannis in that case. But then looking at other power forward options, Aaron Gordon I like quite a bit. He's 8,200. He's been priced up a lot on DraftKings, but the dude has just been absolutely balling as of late. You look at the game log, he's got 42 plus DraftKings points in 5 straight games, getting monster minutes on a nightly basis, playing nearly 40 minutes a night. I mean, he's played 40 plus minutes in 2 straight games, and those were in regulation. I really like Aaron Gordon. I think at $32 on Yahoo, that's where he stands out the most. I think him and Karis LeVert are both still a little bit too cheap on Yahoo. Both of them are $32. They're the same price tag as Brandon Ingram. I would much rather have Gordon and LeVert over those two guys. We'll take a look at Aaron Gordon's numbers this season. If you look at his season-long numbers, they don't look great for a guy that's priced at $8,200. We'll pull them up real quickly. But then if you actually look at his numbers just from the last 2 weeks, they look much better. Like, he's just been playing at such a elite level as of late. Like, his season-long numbers are not good. I mean, 21% usage rate, only averaging like a fantasy point per minute. Like, those aren't great numbers. 15% assist percentage, 12% total rebound percentage. But if we change the date range from this season to the last 2 weeks, you see a pretty big differential in the numbers. Just keep an eye on the 21% usage rate. Or the usage rate actually doesn't change much. It actually goes down a little bit, but the fantasy production changes, averaging 1.29 fantasy points per minute, 18.5% assist percentage, so the assist percentage goes up a little bit. The total rebound percentage goes up a little bit as well to 14.2%. He's just been a much more productive player the last few weeks. At $8,200, that feels like an expensive price tag, but there is monster upside for Aaron Gordon, especially in this matchup. This is a great matchup against Minnesota. Minnesota, not a good defensive team. They're playing at the 5th fastest pace in the league. This is a nice pace-up spot for the Magic. I actually have a good amount of interest in multiple guys from the Magic. And Aaron Gordon, one of my favorite targets today. I do like him quite a bit at power forward. He's small forward on Yahoo, $32. I think that's where he stands out the most at that Yahoo salary. Definitely like him at that price tag. But then other guys we could consider, just looking like in the similar price range. Kevin Love, someone I like quite a bit, $7,300 on DraftKings. The price tag, I mean, it's starting to come up a little bit. I mean, he was $7,300 last slate, $7,100 the slate before that. The minutes, though, they've started to come up as well, 38 and 33 minutes the last 2 games. There was a stretch where Kevin Love's minutes were like really inconsistent. He was playing like 26, 23 minutes, even in close games, like they were limiting Kevin Love. I mean, that hasn't been the case as of late with him playing 33-plus minutes in 2 straight. This is a game against the Pelicans that can maybe blow out. I think right now the Pelicans are favored by 11. I guess this game has a little bit of blowout potential, but still, I like Kevin Love a lot here. With no Andre Drummond, that is a little bit of a boost for him. I think that should solidify his minutes. Getting Drummond off the floor, that's just one guy that could take away minutes from Kevin Love. I have to assume Love plays like 34, 35 minutes if this is a close game. There's a lot of upside for him and a good matchup against the Pelicans. So I like him quite a bit at $7,300. I like him a good amount on Yahoo as well. He's only $28. I think he does stand out as one of the better power forward options over on Yahoo. We'll talk about Larry Nance in a second. I like Larry Nance a lot. Tristan Thompson I have interest in as well. But hard to overlook Kevin Love at $7,300. Like this matchup a lot for Christian Wood. His minutes, even coming off the bench, have still been pretty high. Still getting like 32, 34 minutes a night. This is a fantastic matchup against the Suns. DeAndre Ayton, really never been that good of a defender. Not a guy that's going to slow down Christian Wood. So still like Christian Wood. I think I'd probably prefer Kevin Love over him for $1 or for $100 more. But still, Wood is definitely in play. Larry Nance, though, I actually like a ton today. $5,900 on DK. Pretty expensive price tag, but we saw last game with Andre Drummond out, Larry Nance really benefited, was able to play 31 minutes. Even with the Cavs, having all 4 of like Drummond, Larry Nance, Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love, like all 4 of those guys, they're still giving Larry Nance like 26, 28 minutes a night. With Andre Drummond out, I think that solidified Nance's minutes even more. I think it's more likely he plays 30 plus, like 30, 32 minutes. He's been a fantasy point per minute player this season. It's a fantastic matchup against the Pelicans. This is a spot that Larry Nance absolutely went nuts in earlier this season. Had 46 DraftKings points in only 25 minutes against them. Like, if we're going to get 32 minutes from Larry Nance today, at $5,900, he can easily go for 35, 40 DraftKings points and be a really good play at that salary, especially in a good matchup like this. He's got power forward and center eligibility on DraftKings, which makes him a very appealing option. I like Larry Nance quite a bit at $5,900. On Yahoo, he's only $20. I really like him at his Yahoo salary, and he's also power forward on Yahoo. You don't have to use up one of your center spots to roster Larry Nance, so give me some Larry Nance today. I think the minutes will be there with Drummond out. Even if you see Thompson and Kevin Love play like 34, 36 minutes each, Larry Nance is still going to get probably 30 minutes himself and can easily pay off that price tag in 30 minutes with how productive of a player he is. Should get plenty of time at center when either one of those two guys are off the floor. You might even get some time where both those guys are off the floor, and that's when Larry Nance should be just the most productive. So I like him a good amount. Definitely one of my favorite plays in that mid-range at power forward. But then other options we could target, other plays that stand out. I mean, not much stands out in the 5K range. I think like a guy like Bielitsa is fine. 5,300 against the Grizzlies. Should get some time at center. Had a decent game Thursday night, at least last time I saw. I know he was putting up a decent outing. Maybe he'll be able to carry that momentum into this game against Memphis. I think he had a lot of success against Memphis earlier this season. Actually, he didn't, but still like Bielitsa at 5,300. I think this is a guy that's going to play 30-plus minutes most nights. The minutes have been kind of inconsistent as of late, but I think he's going to get back to 30, 32 minutes a night most nights, especially while Bagley, Holmes, while those guys remain out. The minutes should be pretty safe for Bielitsa. But then under 5K for cheap values at power forward, I mean, there's not much here besides what we've already talked about. I think Taurean Prince in a revenge game, 4,700 against the Hawks. Like, you could definitely go to Taurean Prince. He's had a lot of success against his former team this season, averaging 32 DraftKings points per game through 3 games against them. I know he got into some foul trouble that game, or actually didn't, but only played 25 minutes against the Wizards. I think that was a little bit of a surprise. His minutes have been somewhat down as of late. I think this is a guy that's going to play about 30, 32 minutes most nights. It's a great matchup. It's a revenge game if you want to factor that in. At 4,700, I do have some interest in Taurean Prince as a value power forward. But the rest of this position is just guys like we have to wait and see on with injuries. Do want to talk about the the Toronto value. We do know that Serge Ibaka is questionable heading into Friday night. If Serge Ibaka were to sit, I have to assume either one of Rondae Hollis-Jefferson or Chris Boucher gets the start. Last time Ibaka was out, we saw RHJ get the start, so he would be the guy that I like the most here. I mean, he's been playing about 20, 22 minutes off the bench most nights. With Ibaka out, it's possible that he gets like 30, 32 minutes. I think it was this game against Minnesota that Ibaka was out. He played 34 minutes and had 36 DraftKings points. It was just a really good game from RHJ. This is a fantastic matchup against Charlotte. We know Charlotte is terrible defensively against power forwards and centers. So if Ibaka is out, I do like RHJ a ton. He would be a really good value option at 4,100. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and hit on the center position real quick just before we end the video. So at the top of the center position, guys like Jokic, Vucevic, Bam Adebayo, I don't think these guys are going to be core plays for me on today's slate. If I had to choose one guy to go to, it would honestly probably be Vucevic. I like the matchup a lot against Minnesota. Naz Reid is not a good defender at all. This is a really good spot for Vuce. Normally, he's not a guy that I like paying this expensive of a price tag for, but he's shown he has 55-point upside, very similar to Aaron Gordon. Both Gordon and Vuce have been playing at a very high level as of late. I mean, Vuce is giving you like a 40-point floor right now. Even if he has like a rough night, he can still give you 40, even like 42 DK points, which really doesn't kill you. He's got 55-point upside, especially against this Minnesota team that is really bad defensively. I do like Vuce quite a bit. Jokic you could obviously consider at 9,600 against the Clippers. This is a pretty solid matchup. You can definitely target the Clippers with opposing centers. If you're going to target them, that's where you do want to do so. But I think I'd rather roster guys like Trae Young, Luka. I think Trae Young and Luka are my favorite studs on this slate if they both play. Now, if they're both out, that's obviously going to make guys like Jokic and Vucevic much more appealing because taking Young and Doncic both off the slate, we're going to have less stud options, and getting those two guys out is going to open up more value, which is going to make it easier to get to these expensive centers. But I don't think paying up at center is going to be like a top priority for me. We'll talk about some value I like at this position. But just looking in the mid-range, Rudy Gobert, like him a lot in the spot against the Wizards. He's only 7,800 on DraftKings. He is definitely one of my favorite center options today, especially when you factor in his salary compared to guys like Jokic. I mean, he's almost $2,000 cheaper than Jokic. There's definitely 55-point upside for Rudy Gobert in this spot. The Wizards have been one of the worst rebounding teams this season. They are dead last in rebound percentage, which I think is very beneficial for a guy like Rudy Gobert who really dominates on the boards. He was able to put up 47 DK points. Last time they faced the Wizards, had 21 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Just a very solid game from him overall. Dude's going to play monster minutes if it's a close game. Has a lot of upside in this matchup. So I like Rudy Gobert quite a bit. Christian Wood, we talked about, have a good amount of interest in. Tristan Thompson, I want to hit on him. So he is 5,700 on DraftKings. I think Tristan Thompson, Larry Nance, both these guys are really good options today. Both got about 30 minutes last game. Thompson played 32 and started at center. Larry Nance came off the bench and played 31 minutes. Both were able to put up very solid games. You had Tristan Thompson finish with 38 DraftKings points. I think Larry Nance finished with like 33 DK points. Because Larry Nance has power forward eligibility, I think I do prefer him over Tristan Thompson today. I think Larry Nance gives you a little bit more upside than Thompson. But obviously, in a matchup against the Pelicans, a really good spot. I think Tristan Thompson is totally in play today. I expect he gets the start again and plays probably 30-32 minutes with Drummond out. So he's definitely a guy you could look to. I do have a lot of interest, though, in Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen I like a ton at his DraftKings salary and in this matchup against the Hawks. Allen's only 5,100 on DK. The price tag is very low on him. The minutes are starting to trend up, which is a big plus for Jarrett Allen. Before that game against Washington, he had played 25 and 26 minutes against Charlotte and Orlando, put up 35 and 41 DK points. The only reason he played 18 minutes against Washington was because of foul trouble. He had 6 fouls. He fouled out in 18 minutes. Obviously, don't expect Jarrett Allen to foul out in 18 minutes again. If he plays his normal 26, 28 minutes against this Hawks team, he could absolutely go nuts against them. He's faced the Hawks 3 times. Through 3 games against them, he has averaged 35 DraftKings points. It's just such a good matchup. The Hawks are a terrible defensive team. This is a spot where we could get a big double-double from Jarrett Allen. He could go for like 14 and 13, pick up a couple blocks, maybe get a couple assists as well. Like, don't be surprised if you get a 35, 40-point game from Jarrett Allen. I think because he's so inconsistent, the minutes are so inconsistent, that's going to keep his ownership down, if I have to assume. So, as the low-owned tournament play today, I know he's been low-owned the last few slates. I have a lot of interest in Jarrett Allen. I like him a lot on DraftKings at 5,100. I think if you want to play him on Yahoo, that makes plenty of sense as well. He's $18 on Yahoo. I do like Jarrett Allen quite a bit at that Yahoo salary as well. But in terms of center value plays, just looking under 5K for cheap options here. Cleveland plays really big, so maybe you see Derek Favors get like 26, 28 minutes. I mean, last time he faced Cleveland, he played 23 minutes, 24 DraftKings points. You never know with Derek Favors, so that just kind of keeps him more on the side of tournaments. Always a risky option for cash. Like, I would never play Derek Favors in cash unless like Zion were out or something. With Zion healthy, like, they can just give Zion minutes at the 5. They don't have to play Derek Favors 30 minutes. If there was a spot for him to get maybe a few more minutes, I think this would be it against Cleveland, because Cleveland usually always has at least one, if not 2 bigs on the floor with like Kevin Love, Larry Nance, Tristan Thompson, one of those 3 guys on the floor at all times. So I did at least want to mention Derek Favors as sort of like a low-owned play today. We talked about the Serge Ibaka injury. He's questionable. If he were to sit, guys like RHJ, you have Chris Boucher at 3,400. If Boucher were to start, I would love him as a value play. He'd be probably the best value on the slate. But I have to assume that if Ibaka is out, then you probably get RHJ in the starting lineup. And RHJ, he's not center eligible. I mean, we already touched on him back at power forward anyway. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for center. I think we covered everything here that I see. Just looking at this like the night before. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I know this video is really long. I just want to try and give as much information, as much analysis as I could into today's slate. 10 games tonight, so pretty big slate. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button down below before you get out of here. Make sure you subscribe as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. Also, if you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. You can also check out my Patreon link down below and get access to all of my exclusive NBA content. You can see all that I have to offer over on Patreon. I do provide a lot of updated thoughts on the slate over on Patreon as injury news breaks throughout the day. So check all that out. Drop a like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we should be back tomorrow. I should have a video up for Saturday. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.